According to mythology, in ancient Greece, there was a king named Sisyphus, the founder of the renowned city of Corinth. But don't be mistaken, Sisyphus was not just any king. One day, something unexpected happened. Sisyphus witnessed the abduction of Asopus' daughter, the powerful god of rivers. And who was behind this? None other than Zeus, the king of the gods. This could be useful, thought Sisyphus, with that cunning glint in his eye. Without wasting time, Sisyphus approached Asopus, who was more lost than a child at a school party, devastated by the loss of his daughter. "Asopus, old friend," said Sisyphus with a voice full of false sympathy, "I can tell you who took your daughter. But, I have this water park project in Corinth. How about helping me with a spring?" Desperate, Asopus agreed without hesitation. And Sisyphus, a man of his word, when it suited him, revealed it was Zeus. But as we all know, Zeus was not one to take an affront lying down. Discovering that Sisyphus had spilled his secret, he ordered Thanatos, the dreaded god of death, to deal with the chatty king. But capturing Sisyphus was not as easy as it seemed. When Thanatos appeared with his shining scythe, Sisyphus welcomed him with a smile and a gift, a necklace that was in fact a disguised chain. Thus, Thanatos ended up captured, and for a brief period, death took a forced vacation. This, of course, messed up the balance of the world. Ares, the god who loved a good fight, became frustrated. Without death, no war. Decided to solve the problem, Ares freed Thanatos, who, without wasting another minute, went to settle scores with Sisyphus. Knowing the rules of the underworld, Sisyphus prepared his final trick. He asked his wife not to perform the funeral rituals. When he was dragged to Hades, he played the injustice card. "Hades, man, look at this absurdity. My wife didn't do my funeral. I need to go back and set things right." Hades, who was not very patient, resisted at first, but Sisyphus was persuasive. "All right, but be quick," said Hades, clearly underestimating Sisyphus's cunning, who of course did not return to the underworld for a long time, until his old age. For his tricks and deceit, his punishment was endless and meaningless labor, pushing a huge stone up a mountain, only to watch it roll down every time he was about to reach the top, and so it went on for all eternity. This is the myth of Sisyphus, an ancient tale, yet incredibly relevant. The point is that there's a way to compare Sisyphus's condemnation to real life. After all, every day we have to wake up, work, strive our hardest to get through the day, and repeat this cycle until the end of our lives. This myth serves to try to answer the question, does life have any meaning? Or better yet, does life need to have any meaning? Today I will try to answer that. Have you ever stopped to wonder if you really exist? Sounds like one of those drunk questions, right? But let's go. If I asked you right now, how would you prove that you exist? Maybe you say, "I'm here, breathing and seeing everything around me." But when you're dreaming, don't you also feel everything as if it were real? So, how do we differentiate dream from reality? To answer this, a guy named Descartes comes along. He also wondered a lot about this, and he reached an interesting point. If I am doubting, thinking, or questioning, it already means that somehow I exist. Famous, I think, therefore I am. But it's not just about I'm alive and breathing. It's deeper. It's about being aware, knowing that you are here and now, thinking about all this. But then, when we start to understand ourselves, we look around and see a lot of people. Do they exist in the same way you do? Okay, but after this inner journey, we look around. There are other people here. Are they as real as we are? Here comes George Berkeley. He says the following: "One can only assert that something exists if it is perceived." Let's take the classic example. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it really make a sound? Did the tree fall? You might answer, yes. It will fall regardless of anyone noticing. And when someone arrives and sees a trunk on the ground, they might say, "Yes, the tree fell." Yes and no. Did the tree fall? Yes, but that's not the point. The point is that the falling of a tree only has meaning if a thinking being is aware that it fell and can observe it. The tree has truly fallen only if you, a rational and conscious being, observe, even after it has fallen, that it has fallen. The significance of its fall depends directly on a rational observer. This idea is called immaterialism, because he believes that the material world, in fact, does not exist, and that everything is in a bunch of thinking minds. It's quite complex, but in short, the conclusion I draw from all this is that if there are no conscious beings to observe life, that life would have no reason for existence. Deep, isn't it? Since we are conscious beings, we can think and imagine what would life be without consciousness. The point of all this is that we only give meaning to our life because we have the consciousness to do so. If we were irrational animals, we would live comfortably a life without any meaning, but humanity decided to think, and now everyone has an existential crisis. Now we need to search for meaning, and that's what we will talk about now. Well, now that we've taken a good look in the mirror and confirmed, yes, I exist because I think, let's level up. Being conscious is not just knowing that you exist. It's feeling, it's questioning, it's complicated, isn't it? So, what do we do with all this consciousness we have? There's an author, Dostoevsky, who stirred up these ideas in a way that still affects us today. You know those nights when you're tossing and turning in bed, thinking about life? Dostoevsky is the master of that. He created characters that experience these existential crises in such a real way that it hurts. One of these guys is Ivan Karamazov. He throws out one of those phrases that make you stop everything and think, if God does not exist, then everything is permitted. Wow, hold on. What he's saying is that, without a higher meaning, without rules, life can seem like a fenceless field. But here we're not just talking about religion or morality, we're talking about meaning. If no one's watching, what stops us from doing anything? This point is a bit more complicated, because in truth, nothing stops you from doing what you want. It will depend on your belief, but you may believe that you will be punished after your death, that you will be punished while you are alive. Let's try to focus here less on the existence of God and more on the meaning of life. I want to make it clear that this video is not intended in the least to refute any religion, much less a faith. Who am I to do that? Moving on, here is where a guy named Kierkegaard comes in. He was super religious, but his point goes beyond faith. He talked about how to face the anguish of existing. Know that feeling that nothing makes sense? He called it existential dread. And according to him, this anguish is a sign that you are on the right path. It's a part of the search for meaning. Kierkegaard divided life into 3 stages: aesthetic, ethical, and religious. In the aesthetic stage, life is all about pleasures, enjoying the moment without thinking much. In the ethical, you start to take things seriously, think about right and wrong. And in the religious, which for him was the pinnacle, you connect to a greater meaning, something beyond yourself. Now, you might be thinking, all right, but what if I'm not religious? That's fine. The idea here is broader. It's about finding something that gives meaning to your life, whatever that may be for you. Kierkegaard's journey is about going deeper, seeking something beyond quick pleasures, searching for a purpose that makes all the sweat and tears worthwhile. I'm not just telling you here about the history of philosophy. We are diving into the big questions. Why am I here? What am I doing with my life? It's not easy, but who said it would be, right? The good news is that just by asking these questions, you are already on the path. We've arrived at the part of our discussion where things get really intense. We've reflected on our existence and dived into the depths of consciousness. Now let's face something even deeper, the absurdity of life. That feeling of, what am I doing here? That hits at 3 in the morning. Arthur Schopenhauer has a perspective that, I'll tell you, isn't the cheeriest. He looked at life and said, you know what? This is basically suffering after suffering. Heavy, right? He saw life as an endless cycle of desire and suffering, a kind of wheel that never stops turning. You want something, you chase after it, maybe you get it, maybe not. But hold on, it's not all tragedy. Schopenhauer also talked about how we can deal with this, mainly through art and contemplation. For him, art, music, and deep contemplation of nature can pull us out of this existential hamster wheel. They allow us to experience a moment of denial of will, a brief respite from the constant wanting. When you lose yourself in an action movie, or become mesmerized by the vastness of the ocean, That feeling of I need, I want disappears. And that's where, according to Schopenhauer, we find a glimpse of peace. But then, my friend, comes Nietzsche, shaking everything up again. He took Schopenhauer's ideas and said, "Okay, life can be tough, but so what? Let's make the best of it." He introduced the idea of amor fati, love of fate, embracing life with all it has, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. It's a proposal for peace, for radical acceptance. Nietzsche didn't stop there. He also talked about nihilism, this idea that nothing matters, that there's no point in anything. But he turned this around. He said that nihilism is not the end of the game. It's more like an awakening. It's the chance to tear down old beliefs and build something new, something of your own. By confronting the views of Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, we are exploring different ways of dealing with the stones in our path. Schopenhauer offers us a moment of escape, a chance to breathe. Nietzsche challenges us to turn those stones into steps, to climb higher and see what we can become. Between the absurd and nihilism, the message we can take is not one of despair. On the contrary, it's almost like a call to life. It's about facing this mess we call life and saying, "Okay, I'm in. Let's see where this goes." In the story of Sisyphus, we see a reflection of our own daily quest. Every day, we wake up, face our challenges, climb our own mountains, and sometimes feel as if we are just pushing a huge boulder up a mountain, never really reaching the top. Although we may live in a world that seems absurd, it is our consciousness that shapes our understanding and gives meaning to our surroundings. In many ways, reality is what we perceive and believe. Although life can sometimes seem like a series of challenges and suffering, there are ways to find peace, acceptance, and even joy. So, does life need to have meaning? Perhaps the question is not whether life needs to have meaning, but how we, conscious beings endowed with thought and emotion, create and find our own meaning. We are not condemned Sisyphus, we are the sculptor of our existence, the author of our story. Yes, life can be absurd, challenging, and sometimes an endless cycle of desires and suffering, but it is also our canvas, our stage, our adventure. And each of us has the power to paint, perform, and explore in the way we choose. The real question is not whether life needs to have meaning, but how you choose to give meaning to your life. Ask yourself, what mark do I want to leave on people and the world? Each new dawn, each challenge, each moment of doubt or joy. There lies the opportunity to define what living means to you. If you've made it this far, it means that this journey through the world of philosophy has awakened something in you. Turn that spark into a flame. Explore Essence of Wisdom, the definitive guide that simplifies the history of philosophy, making it accessible, engaging, and deeply relevant and applicable to your life. The link is pinned in the comments below. Thank you for staying until the end and follow the White Rabbit.